Today I'd like to help with some top tips for a constructive mediation. Firstly, come with an open mind. It is true that mediation isn't suitable for everybody. If you've had a MIAM, a mediation information and assessment meeting with your mediator, then hopefully they will already have discussed with you suitability, and they will have discussed how to keep you safe if you have any concerns. Mediation isn't for everybody, but it will be suitable for a lot of people, and you're not going to know unless you try it. Secondly, try not to book a mediation at a time when you might be hungry or tired, or indeed angry. Thirdly, try and leave plenty of time to get to the meeting so that you're not in a rush. It's not nice when you have that feeling of rushing around. Try and be honest with each other. It's really important that you each know how the other is feeling, but be respectful when you're telling each other how you're feeling. Remember that you both have a duty to each other to disclose your full and frank financial position. Most mediators will send you a list of things ideally that you should bring with you to the first session, and then you can discuss all the other things that you need when you're there. Try and take turns to speak and don't interrupt each other. You're not going to agree with each other necessarily, but it is important that you allow each other to be heard. Call each other by your first names. Don't use he or she or Mrs. or Miss or Mr. or indeed any worse terms. That certainly isn't going to help the mediation, and it's probably going to make your ex just feel quite defensive. Try and describe what you do want rather than what you don't want. You're more likely to get a better result if you are talking in positive terms than you are if you are talking in negative terms. Really try and think about the language that you're using. Explaining how you feel about something is much more likely to get a positive result, as I've said, rather than making accusations. For example, "you always do" is really not as helpful as "I feel very hurt when you do," or "I wish you could do X differently." Try not to blame or attack other people or engage in put-downs, and instead try and ask questions of each other to clarify what you think the other person is saying. Try not to think the worst every time the other person speaks. Make sure that you've really heard what they've said and don't make assumptions about what you think they might have said. Try to not make rigid demands or take a very fixed position. Try and express that what you need personally and the interest in the outcomes that you wish to receive, rather than a very rigid set of rules. Really listen carefully when another person is talking. Try and understand what their needs and interests are and what they're trying to tell you. If necessary, you can always repeat it back to them so that you can both be sure that you've heard the same thing. And recognise that even if they don't agree with you, everyone is entitled to their own views and perspectives, and they will be different. That's why you're coming to mediation, but that's okay. It's okay to be different. Try and avoid dwelling on things that didn't work in the past, or what people did wrongly, or ways of communicating that you know just don't work. Try and focus on how you'd like things to be done differently in the future. We can't change what's happened in the past, but we can try and change and modify the way we do things so that the future is different and better. And finally, take it slowly. When you feel under pressure, the brain tends to freeze. You could try some deep breathing, or you could try and ask for some time out. It's okay to walk away without an agreement at the end of a session. You might need some time to think and reflect. Make sure that your brain can cope with all of the information that you've received. I hope you found that helpful, and that should give you some ideas of how to get the best out of your mediation.